Welcome to the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, where business owners, thought leaders, and community champions from across Central Illinois come to share their story. The Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. Anything less would be uncivilized.
What's up, Central Illinois? I'm Derek Hayden. I'm here with Garrett Ulmer. We are your hosts for the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast, powered by Zambu. Zambu is a delicious grapefruit or wild berry vodka-based spirits infused with the Brazilian buzz button. It's smooth, tasty, and leaves you with a signature tingle. Learn more at zambuliquors.com. Zambu, taste the tingle. All right, Central Illinois, we have another rock star on the show today. Let's go ahead and get her introduced to y'all. She is a certified life coach, a chronic illness coping coach, a speaker, a host of the Chronically Happy podcast, a multiple sclerosis warrior, and a mom of 4. Ladies and gents of Central Illinois, please welcome to the show, Leann Stickel. How are you doing, Leann?
I'm good, but wow, that list felt longer than I expected.
That's good. That's a pretty good resume you got there. So we're going to learn a little bit about, how you got that resume and more about your story. But before that, we'll kick it to Garrett for the speed round to get to know you a little bit better.
All right, Leann, we've got a few questions here. If you can try to answer in, 60 seconds, we say 60 seconds, but, typically we do go over just a little bit. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and continue.
I think I'm ready.
They're pretty easy. So you're the first concert you ever attended.
Oh my goodness. I'm not a concert junkie, and it's probably when I was old, like Home Free,
Okay.
The a cappella group.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. That is definitely a first.
There you go. Your favorite movie.
Favorite movie, Tombstone.
Great. I love that. I'll be your Huckleberry.
Right?
Favorite ice cream flavor.
Mint chocolate chip.
iPhone or Android.
Android.
Favorite social media platform.
Instagram.
And why Central Illinois?
Caterpillar.
That's
So they got
good.
easier,
That's
a good
right.
reason. Well, very nice.
Perfect.
Well, thanks for sharing, Leann. That you did a pretty good job. I will say your the acapella group was a first, and you're an Android user, which we don't see many of those.
No,
but
I'm trying to think back, Derek, in all of our episodes. I truly think she's the first one to say Android. I don't hardly remember
think so?
anybody else. I think so.
I'm not
I feel
sure.
so special, and it's right here.
There you go.
I'm married to an engineer, and there's
There
just
you go.
Gotcha.
I've heard that. So Android users are pretty loyal because of the capabilities of Android. And I guess for me, I started with Apple, so the iPhone is just what I've stuck with. I've never really tried an Android, so.
Yep, I'm right there with you.
it's not my department, so I don't make any decisions in that department. We stay in our own departments, and so I use it because it's what was purchased.
Gotcha.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, Leann. Well, we mentioned your resume, your intro there. Give us a little bit of a background. You have a really unique story. Tell us, where you came from, how you got to where you are now, and tell us, what you do a little bit business wise. And I know you have two sides of your professional career. Feel free to share whatever you want.
Okay. Wow. A license to share. I love it.
Yes.
So really, let's go back to 2009. So I have those 4 teenagers, the 4 kiddos are teenagers now. They were little. And you can imagine with 4 kids, 6 and under, you're just distracted. You don't notice things going on with your body, your health. And especially when, you drink your water, you go for a walk, you have babies on their due date, you just don't see chronic illness as part of your story. So the diagnosis was a shock and a really difficult time in my life. And a lot of it was because, I believe I'm genetically optimistic. If you met my late grandfather, you would understand. This is genetics. It's not something that I read a book about. It's not something that I took a class on. It just comes naturally to me to be optimistic and positive. And that's lovely until it means your rose-colored glasses are so tinted, you don't see the truth in front of you, right? And it's like almost head in the sand. So much so that I denied all the early signs of something going wrong. So October 23rd, I got the news, Leann, you have MS, you have multiple sclerosis. This is yours. And the truth about chronic illness is that it's chronic. It's yours. It's forever, right? Like, because it's chronic, there's no cure. That's overwhelming when you're 29 and have 4 little kids. It's like, this is not the plan. I have a bucket list. I'm going to do all these things. And when you have an illness that could take away mobility, things that feel game changing, right? It was devastating. So I tell you that part. I know it's not business related, but it was a catalyst to where I am today, right? And it was because of going through that time of mourning, like mourning the future that I had pictured, mourning just what I expected my life to be like. And that was so hard to get out of, even though it's easy for me to be positive, even though it's easier for me to be optimistic, right? It was still super hard, super sad. I mean, of course you take care of, you do life and everything, but I would just lay in bed and just tears would come down. Like there wasn't anything, I was just sad. So that's kind of the beginning. That was a long time ago, right? That's 12 years ago. Okay. And so in that journey, when you're living with a chronic illness, you're Leann, you observe a lot of things. You recognize that there's holes in the system and there's need for change, and specifically around support. So support for people that are dealing with something often comes in the form of a group, right? We've all heard of a support group. And when I was newly diagnosed, I went to a support group and oh my goodness, talk about depressing, right? Like, because I love those people, but they are at a different place in their journey, right? They're identified by their illness. It's more progressed. It was devastating to me. And I always say, I left the support group, spent $400 at Target just to feel better. And my husband was like, you think you could have skipped the support group and $200 would have done it, you know? But it was too hard, right? And it wasn't a good space for me. But that doesn't mean that I didn't need support. So in the last decade, I've just made that observation, recognizing, and I really leaned on other people that I ended up being connected with. Like my mom sat on the school board with a lady living well with MS. Well, she became my person that I could just call and touch base with and say, like, is this crazy? How do you feel about this? What was your experience? She was 15 years ahead of me. And like everybody needs a Catherine. Well, that's what I'm becoming. I'm becoming other people's Catherine. And that was, out of recognizing this space that there was a need. And people needed to like call me in the carpool line or send me a text. You don't necessarily need to sit in a dusty old library, right? In a group. You want to be at your volleyball game with your kids and not spend 2 hours on a Saturday morning going to a support group. So really it was like, how can we have the lifestyle that we want, still get support, still make connections? And 2020 allowed this to happen because it created a lot of space in my life. And that's when really I put my shingle out and started working as a life coach.
Gotcha. Very nice. Well, that's an incredible story. Now, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. I've only got 2 kids and, just trying to imagine, having a doctor tell you that diagnosis with 2 kids. And you said you were 29 at the time. You feel like you've got your whole, life ahead of you to do this and this, and you picture what you're going to do. And then you get the diagnosis and it's like, oh no. And your ability to maintain a positive mindset, not a lot of people have the ability to do that. And, it can really, like you said something, don't let the diagnosis define you, or, that's a good story. So thanks for sharing that. So
yeah, it is. And it's really important part of, because I wouldn't have been here, right? Like when I was a kid, I wasn't like, when I grew up, I want to be a life coach and a speaker, right? Like everybody wants to be like a cowboy and a teacher. I don't know.
Yeah. Right. Well, so I was reading through your website a little bit, and you kind of explained a little bit. You mentioned the frosting philosophy. Can you tell us a little bit more about the frosting philosophy?
Oh my goodness, I would be happy to. So this is a theory that really was born early on because I was so salty and so crabby about this new truth. Okay. And I always say that some of my early symptoms was numbness on my left side. And as soon as I got the diagnosis, my numbness got worse. It didn't actually, right? But it became my focus. And so it seemed louder, it seemed more annoying. It was just a reminder, right? That you have MS, Leann, you have MS, Leann, you have a chronic illness. And I would have a bad attitude. Well, I always have loved watches, right? Like today is practical, but I always have cute watches, expensive, cheap, loud, right? And it caught my attention. And I thought, oh my goodness, good job, Leann, for buying that watch. Money well spent. And I started calling it my frosting. The truth about life is that it can be like dry, crummy cake. Not the plan, not what you wanted, not what you were hoping for, but it's what you got. And then what? What do you do? Even when you bake a cake like that in your kitchen, you go to the cupboard, get frosting, maybe 2 jars, layer it on thick. When you take a bite, it's still enjoyable. We've all had cake that's not that great, but the frosting, still sweet, still enjoyable, worth the calories, maybe. Things in life are like frosting, right? The sunshine, healthy kids, your puppy, new Birkenstocks, old Birkenstocks, whatever they are to you. And it's when we stop, pause, notice, and appreciate that the frosting helps our life. You all have those things in your life that you are not noticing or appreciating, right? And so then the magic doesn't happen. It's like frosting in the jar. It is frosting, but it's not helping the cake. So the whole theory became my story, right? And a mission to help people to see the frosting, because everyone has it. And everyone, even if you don't have a chronic illness, has bumps, has hard things, faces experiences that they didn't want to face or didn't choose. So what do you do? How do you change your perspective? And so frosting has just, that's the book. That's what I'm working on, to really help people and realize that it's such a practical thing. Like you can do this in your car on the way to work. This is not heavy lifting, but when it becomes just who you are and what you do, it's crazy the difference that it makes. And then magically, my hand was less numb. It never changed, but my focus did. So part of my life coaching hat is to help people with practical tools and teaching them how to be more positive and to realize that when we're more positive, we make more progress. And when we make more progress, we feel more content. And really, isn't that the goal? To feel content?
Absolutely.
So when you decided, I know you said obviously you didn't grow up and say, I'm going to be a life coach. I think Derek and I can kind of speak. I don't think either one of us grew up saying we're going to be insurance agents and podcast hosts. I don't think that it started out this way. When you kind of made the choice to kind of start gravitating towards doing something like this, what kind of education, what kind of studying did you have to do to prepare yourself to do what you do today?
Okay, that's a great question. And really in my heart, I already knew I was a coach. I knew that I was a cheerleader. I was messaging people on social media. I was connecting, right? I had started an account, and the account was for personal reasons. I had a relapse in 2017, had to change drugs, scary. All my family was like, what's going on? What's going on? 8 million texts. So I just became efficient, went on Instagram and started an account to do stories to show my family, here I am in the infusion center. I'm not dying. I'm fine. Everybody communicated with me that way. So I literally used Instagram as a tool for my family and friends because they're amazing. And I have to communicate because I'm an extrovert and. So Instagram started and I started connecting with people that were like me. And that was magic and why I like that platform so much. And so from there, right, you kind of start wearing this coaching hat, cheerleading, checking in on people. How are you doing? People were asking me questions about my choices, the drugs I chose, lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. And when I decided that I didn't really know how to be a life coach, but I wanted to be, I hired one. So that's where I started, because to become a life coach, it's like the Wild West. You can be a life coach for like $57 to 20 grand. Right? Like, here's your $57 certificate. You're a life coach. Right? Yeah. And so, I just caution anybody hiring one, make sure you connect, make sure you're confident in what they're going to do for you or with you. So I hired one to test a program, basically, because I knew that she had gone through a program that I had done some research on and was interested in. So I went through the Certified Coaches Federation. They're actually out of Canada. And because of 2020, things went virtual. I was able to do a whole 3-day intensive course live with an entire classroom of students, where we actually did practice sessions, learn structure. What do you do session 1? What do you do session 2? That would be kind of standard, but obviously every life coach is working with different clients and has a different style.
Sure.
Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah,
So I can see that program.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just kind of
helped
jumped
me-
in is what you're saying.
Yeah.
You just jumped in and hired a coach to see what it was like and then went from there.
Yeah, and it helped, the program helped me have a little structure, because I'm like, I don't know, should I talk to you for 15 minutes? Right? Like,
Right.
or 2 hours, or should we work together all day? And the program helped me define what was really best practices. And
Gotcha.
sure enough, it works. So that's been helpful.
Cool.
Very nice. Very nice. So I can see if there's anybody listening that kind of, feels your story and wants to connect with you. I see that you do have coaching packages listed on your website, leannstickel.com. You do have coaching packages listed there. Another thing I see on your website is that I mentioned in the intro is the Chronically Happy Podcast. So tell us a little bit about Chronically Happy Podcast, how that became a real thing, and what type of audience is listening to that. Okay.
So tiny little bit embarrassing, but that podcast is paused. I'm not superstar like you guys. Y'all can only be a superstar in so many spaces. I started it because I want it to come back to life. This is not the season right this second, but my goal was to speak to newly diagnosed patients, as well as people further down the road, but really coming from a place of understanding. But every other week I was teaching a positive living tool. So one week I was speaking about chronic illness, a truth, an experience, right? Just sharing my story and relating with people. And my goal was, or is, 10 to 15 minute episodes. So on the way to work, you can learn a tool or be reminded of something, or hear my journey with affirmations, or why I think you should do them, or right. So that's the whole mission of the podcast. But life happens. And not all of us have almost 50 episodes,
Sure. It's crazy. So a quick story on our podcast, your website, and I'll give you a shout out. So you have some affiliate links on your website, and one of them is Podmatch. So it matches you with, if you're a host, it matches you with potential guests and vice versa. So I clicked on it because I, perusing through leannstickel.com, and I saw that. But then it popped up, and that's when I didn't realize how many really episodes we were at. And it said, Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast is at, I think it said 41, shows at this point. I was like, wow, okay. I didn't realize that. So, so you have some affiliate links. I guess we can start there. So how do you become an affiliate of some of these, businesses or services? And how did you get that on your website? And is that a revenue generator for you in a way?
I mean, that's just a little trickle. And I'll just tell you that I am not your guru of affiliates, but if I love something and it says that that's an opportunity to share it with others, then I'll post it as an affiliate link.
Sure.
So normally it's on the website of the company, or they're advertising that as an option, right? Because they want us to advertise for them too. I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
And Podmatch is amazing. And so in lieu of me producing a podcast, going on and being a guest like this has been extremely helpful, because I connect with different audiences, and it's not just my circle, right? And my Instagram has grown slowly, and I enjoy it, and I don't really care about the numbers. I just care about the right people. Finding, and I mean, you feel that way, except that the numbers help you to find the right people. Right.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of like, oh yeah, I don't care about the numbers. People say that, but you kind of have to care about the numbers, because if 1 in 10 people are your people, then you need to find a lot of 10 people.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
So yeah, affiliate is not that difficult. You just sign up, get a link, throw it on the website. But
Very
I mean,
nice.
if I can do it, anybody can.
Yeah, I learned something new today. I was looking at that, I was like, hey, that's cool. I'm going to go ahead and sign up for it. I literally, like 5 minutes before we started, our recording, I signed up for it. So we'll see how that plays out. So that's very cool.
One more thing that I see on your website as well is it talks about public speaking. Can you tell us a little bit about your public speaking?
So public speaking happened also in 2020. Of course, I've always known I want to talk, and to anybody that would listen, but to speak in a way that people can walk away and feel a little different, feel a little more confident, feel like they can try something new, really was like this light bulb that happened. So I joined Toastmasters in 2020.
Okay.
Because anybody can talk, but can you say the right things in the right amount of time? That's the struggle. And Toastmasters is amazing. If anybody doesn't know about Toastmasters, it's a great space too. And it's not just for people that want to be professional speakers. It's for people in sales, maybe everyone knows, but Toastmasters is a great space to practice. And so we write speeches, they're usually 5 to 7 minutes, and it really helps you whittle it down, right? Like, let's get to the cream of the crop. Like, don't bring all the ingredients, bake the cake, serve it. And so that has helped me a lot. And I've just started. I really only had a handful of speaking gigs. And when you say you want to be a speaker, but you haven't really spoken in front of a crowd, and then all of a sudden you speak in front of a crowd, you think, I hope I was right. I hope I actually want to do this. And I spoke at Francie's event. So Francie Heinrichsen had her inaugural Founding Females event. And I got up there, and you guys, I was at home. It was awesome. My face. I had this like crinkled up piece of note paper that had like my bullet points on it. And I think right before I went up, Francie was like, oh dear, like that's what you're taking up there, But I just knew it, and I had a lovely audience.
Yeah.
That's 150 awesome. Great cheering women,
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, it is a direction that I hope to continue down, but did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So now, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that being able to stand up in front of that many people and stay positive and, share your story, that's difficult for a lot of people. And the fact that you felt at home doing that, I feel like this whole, you were meant to do it. The story or your journey happened to you to help share, your positive nature, given everything you've been through. So that's a cool story in itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, my mission is to be relatable. Like, I am not perfect at all, but I make it to volleyball. My kids are fed and dressed, and I deal with a chronic illness and, right? We can wear a lot of hats, and we don't have to be perfect doing it. And I want people to feel so encouraged and empowered. And, part of the whole coaching, we didn't really touch on this, and I do want to. So many people are stuck writing the same goals over and over and over again. We've all done it, and we will all still do it, but sometimes it takes a coach. So a coach is not just a teacher, not just a cheerleader, but a coach is saying, you're doing this well, keep doing it. This, not so hot. And we find those places together. And that's really my mission, is to help them find, like, what are these spaces that we need to improve? And now how do we figure out which one is the priority? Not priorities. Priority, which one matters the most, which one is going to have the biggest impact on your life if you improve it. And then what resources do we have within our reach to improve that? Incredible, right? And it's just, how many times do you step back for an hour from your life and look at the big picture? We don't do it, right? We're like up close, we're like, next thing, we get to lunch, got to pick up the kids, and so it's that decision to say, this is going to get me there quicker. Can you accomplish what I'm going to help you accomplish on your own? For sure. You can. But will you? I'm an optimist, but in that situation, I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody's lives are so crazy. You never stop to think about, like you said, the big picture. And I know Garrett and I are in the same boat. He's in more of a, running to baseball and football and all this stuff. And then you go to bed and you wake up and it starts all over again. You never have time to take a breath. It doesn't seem like. And yeah, being able to lean on somebody like a coach can definitely help you get a better grasp of the big picture.
It's funny you say that, Leann, because this weekend it was one time I was talking to my wife and I'm like, just like Derek said, it's a hamster wheel every day, right? Most of us wake up and it's technology gets in the way, life gets in the way. And then I was like, I go, this was the life we asked for. We need to step back and be thankful that we are able to do these things and have the opportunity. So we hadn't done that for a while. And sometimes you do when you're running 100 mile an hour, you just got to say, okay, slow down. This is what I asked for. This is what I want. This is what I truly am thankful for. But it's tough sometimes, for sure.
Totally. And I mean, it is your frosting. 100%. I mean, when you pause and look at it, it's amazing that you get to do all those things, but, and do all the things for sure. But can we create change? Can we make progress while we're busy? We can, we just don't. Sure. And that is, that brings me so much joy, and it's incredible because you think you're really complicated. You're not. Life comes down to about 6 areas. And once I help people grade those areas of their life, it does not take us very long to identify what we need to improve, right? And if you're giving it one area of your life a 4 out of 10, we need to get it to a 7. And what does that look like? And that just becomes a conversation and me challenging you, like, why would that make it a 7? Why isn't it a 7 right now? No one else is asking you those questions, sure. Right? I mean, I love it so much. And the feedback, people don't have to stay with me forever. They don't. We can get you unstuck. And a lot of times people have 1 or 2 things that really, really are holding them back and having a negative effect on their life. When we move that needle and you learn tools, you're good. And sometimes people come back and say, I just need another month. I need 3 months. I need accountability. Someone hired me just to help them be true to their goal. They already knew what it was, but they said, I need to check in every 2 weeks and say, I did this. And so then I literally write them their to-do list that they tell me, right? But it's in an email and it's official and it's from me. And I said, you said that you're going to do this, this, and this, and they do it. So it's cool.
Very nice.
3 of the most powerful words, you told me, right?
Exactly.
You told me.
So we'll hit on one last topic here, Leann. And I know before we hopped on, you mentioned it, and it sounds like something you're pretty proud of. Try to Beat MS. It's a nonprofit that you started. Give us the whole rundown of what it is and what it looks like.
Okay, so one of the most powerful things you can do with the bad part of your story is do something good with it. And the triathlon was born out of that motivation. And really, I have a heart of a volunteer. I think some people are just born that way, right? But I think everyone in the world should volunteer in some way. The whole wide world would be better, right? So the triathlon was born because I wanted to fundraise for local patients. When you have a chronic illness, you have chronic costs, and that is a chronic burden. So there's a need for fundraising, and fitness is a big part of my journey. We didn't touch on that, and I'm not ripped and I don't win anything, but I show up and work out every day. And that's because, I was an academic, not an athlete. But when you realize that your mobility could be taken away, it is a powerful why to show up and work out. So fitness really, really helped me, saved me in a lot of ways. And I wanted to inspire kids to love fitness. So while our primary mission is to raise money, so it is a kids triathlon, it's for kids ages 6 to 15, no experience necessary. This year is June 11th. It's our 8th annual event. And our secondary mission is to do just that, inspire kids to love fitness. And we know that race energy is like magic. And what better addiction for your kids to have is to be in love with races and goals and fitness. And you watch these kids show up and do this hard thing. Amazing. It's worth the drive just for that. So it's right here in Chillicothe, which is very central Illinois. We have a wonderful park district that partners with us and gives us the use of their facility. And yeah, it's a 25-yard swim, 2-mile bike right in Chillicothe, closed to all cars, and then a half-mile run in the park.
It's very nice.
Yeah, it's the whole deal. It's professionally timed, so they get all their splits. If you know anything about racing or triathlons, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Top 3 in every age group gets a trophy. We have a podium. We have all the frosting.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah, so what we'll do, Leann, is I will about called you Francie again. I keep wanting to call you Francie. You two are just so similar in positivity. So what we'll do, Leann, is whenever we publish this episode, which could be a Friday, it looks like, we will go ahead and tag the registration for Try to Beat MS for the upcoming, you said the 11th of June.
Yeah.
So we got a few weeks here. So we'll tag as many times as we can that registration link. So if anybody listening to this is interested and thinks their kid might enjoy that, we'll help you guys find the registration page.
Thank you so much. And I just want to
Absolutely.
tell anybody listening, like literally no experience necessary, as long as you can ride a 2-wheel bike and you have a helmet. I even have donated helmets, so I can solve a lot of things for people. But we have 70 volunteers, 70. And my friends, the first year, the first year of anything is rough, right? So if anybody wants to start an event, wants to talk about fundraising, I love to mentor people in that space because someone mentored me. I really copied an event that my kids did in Michigan. And so that race director really helped me. She was raising money for a rare issue that her kiddo had. And I reached out to her and said, this is amazing. Central Illinois doesn't have an event like this. And that's how we decided on this avenue for fundraising. But I thought I had a lot of things checked off until I realized that I needed 70 volunteers. That is a lot of people to ask.
Only 70, huh?
Right. Because you start putting all the posts like where you think you need a grown-up. And it's like, oh my goodness. I mean, I begged, borrowed, stole anybody that would come that first year. And one of the biggest feathers in my cap is that most of those people come back every year because it's such a great experience. They love it so much. We give them donuts and coffee. We give them a free shirt. So everybody looks the same. And it's definitely worth their time.
So they get all the frosting is what you're saying.
Yes.
100%.
So I've got to ask, all this frosting and cake talk, do you like to bake?
I don't like to bake, but I like to buy it.
Okay.
So I have kids that like to bake, the kitchen, I go there out of necessity.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, very nice. Well, Leann, we're getting close to the 30-minute mark. Before we hop off here, where you mentioned Instagram, you mentioned a few of the other places people can find you. Tell us how they can find you. If you want to share a phone number, website, Instagram, what they call a handle, I guess it is. Let us know where people can find you.
Yeah, so I'm super easy to find, leannstickel.com. Like you said, on Instagram, I am Leann Stickel. And on Facebook, I have a private Facebook community. I started that just this last year. It's called Not Defined by Chronic Illness. And I encourage people with or without a chronic illness, because most of the time you know someone that's dealing with it. And a lot of times it can be someone that's close to you. So everyone is welcome. I started that group because Instagram is not as community-esque as Facebook can be, even though Facebook felt like to me,
Sure.
A Facebook group can be like a community. And so that's what I'm creating there. So in any of those places, I'm very reachable.
Great.
Awesome.
Is that a free group to join?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Well, great. Well, until next time, all you listeners out there, make sure you're subscribing to the CIBL podcast on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, should be on all those. While you're there, please leave us a review. We would greatly appreciate it, and it would greatly help our reach to new listeners. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook and engage with our guests there as well. Until next time, Leann, you have officially been civilized. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Leann.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Central Illinois Business Leaders Podcast. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/CIBL Podcast. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It's the civilized thing to do.